All right, so today we are diving into a challenge that I think a lot of small architecture firms face, and that is transitioning from CAD to BIM. We've got a collection of resources for this deep dive today.
Yeah.
Everything from ebooks to actual course outlines, even real-world examples of BIM implementation. So hopefully you can pull out some gems to make your BIM adoption smoother,
For sure.
faster,
Yeah.
and, dare we say, even a little enjoyable.
Right.
I was reading one of the sources, and it said that a lot of architects hesitate to adopt BIM because they see it as really complex
Right.
and time-consuming.
Yeah, and understandably so.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of small firms I talk to really see it as this big, complicated beast. And that's where this idea of little BIM comes in.
Little BIM.
Right, as opposed to big BIM. And Finnith Jernigan, he talks about this in his book. Big BIM, little BIM.
Okay.
And it's kind of a game changer.
Okay, so break that down for me. What's the difference between the two?
So big BIM you can think of as that fully integrated collaborative BIM environment. You see that on huge complex projects.
Yeah.
And then little BIM focuses on just bringing those tools and those methodologies into your existing design and documentation process.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to have this full-scale collaborative ecosystem.
Oh, that's awesome. So you can kind of pick and choose what you need and not be overwhelmed by the entire...
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can gradually transition at your own pace and really tailor it to what you need as a firm.
And this is where tools like SketchUp come into play, especially with programs like the 33D SketchUp BIM course.
Yeah, SketchUp is so user-friendly. It's very 3D focused. I think it makes it a great starting point for people that maybe aren't ready to dive headfirst into Revit or ArchiCAD.
Yeah, and I was looking at that course, and it's a structured 33-day program focused on practical application. It even has a supportive online community.
Oh, nice.
So it seems like a really supportive way to ease into BIM.
It is. I mean, that structured approach and that focus on achievable steps really resonates with that little BIM philosophy.
Right.
It's not about throwing out everything that you know.
Right.
And starting from scratch.
Right, just picking and choosing what works for you and your firm. So how does this translate into actually, like, avoiding those errors and delays? Because at the beginning we talked about, that's the big fear with switching from CAD to BIM. It's like, oh, it's going to be so complicated and time consuming.
Right.
But how does this actually help to avoid that?
So imagine you're designing a house renovation, right?
Okay.
With SketchUp's BIM capabilities, you can model that existing structure, and then you can start to layer in your design changes. And as you do that, the software can actually flag any potential conflicts.
Oh, wow.
Like, say, a duct is running through a structural beam.
Right.
So you're going to catch those issues in the design phase, long before they become these costly on-site problems.
That's huge. I mean, we've all been on those job sites where something's been overlooked.
Yeah.
And suddenly everyone's scrambling to fix it.
Talk about delays and budget blowouts.
Totally.
And it's not just clash detection. You can also automate things like generating your floor plans and your elevations directly from that 3D model.
So it saves so much time.
Saves you hours of drafting time.
Yeah.
Reduces that risk of inconsistencies between the drawings.
So you're not only catching those errors earlier,
Right.
but you're also like streamlining the entire documentation process.
Exactly. And, that documentation can be more than just those 2D drawings.
Right.
You can create these photorealistic renderings and even virtual walkthroughs to present to your clients.
Wow.
It's a way that really brings your project to life.
Yeah, I mean, it's like moving from blueprints to a fully immersive experience.
Right.
That's got to be a game changer for clients.
Yeah, especially for client communication and buy-in.
Yeah, totally.
And because SketchUp is relatively intuitive, even someone with limited BIM experience can pick it up pretty quickly.
Okay.
You don't need to spend months training your staff on this complex new software.
So you're essentially lowering that barrier to entry, making BIM more accessible for these smaller firms that might have been a little intimidated before.
Exactly. And that accessibility is crucial for bridging that knowledge gap between those traditional CAD workflows and the power of BIM.
Yeah.
So it's about empowering those firms to take those first steps. Without feeling overwhelmed. They also talk a lot about improving client presentations.
So we've got little BIM as this philosophy, and we've got tools like SketchUp
you can
as a
take your
practical way to
clients on a
start
virtual
implementing
tour
it.
of their
But
future
what happens when a
building
project
using the 3D
requires
model.
collaborating with larger firms?
Love that.
that are already deep into that big BIM world.
And it allows you to get their feedback early on in the design process. So that's where things get really interesting down the road.
Okay,
There's this
I'm
concept
this
called
course
Open
is the
BIM,
real
and
deal.
it's all about breaking down those software silos.
Is still
It's a set of standards that allows for seamless data exchange between all these different BIM platforms. So even if you're working in SketchUp and your collaborators using
implement
Revit,
what they've learned.
you can still so cool about this program. It's designed with that in mind. Without running into all those compatibility to guide you through each day.
So no more
they have an online community where you can connect with other students and get support. Exactly. And they even offer certification upon that data remains intact.
So it's not just about watching videos and hoping for the best.
Regardless of the software.
They actually provide a whole universal language to help you succeed.
Exactly. You got it. They want you to not only learn the material, but also feel confident using it in your practice.
Maybe don't have the resources to invest in. I think that's what's missing from a lot of online courses.
For sure. They often just throw information at you and then leave you to figure it out on your own. Open BIM really levels that playing field, allows smaller firms to participate in those larger projects. It's about finding the right approach and collaborate effectively.
And this course gives you the tools and knowledge to do just that.
It does. It really demystifies BIM and makes it feel achievable.
Man, this has been an eye-opening deep dive. So how does that relate to
We've learned so much.
From the nuts and bolts of the course to the bigger picture of BIM in the industry.
And how it's not just for big firms database of information about that project.
A way of working that can benefit any architect.
No matter what size firm they're in. Energy performance data. All of that can be embedded in that model.
It's about embracing a more collaborative, data-driven,
and Open BIM helps ensure that that data can be accessed. And this course gives you the roadmap to get there, regardless of their software.
I think that's a perfect. So it's not just sharing like the geometry of the building. It's also all the information that goes along with it.
Exactly.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this deep dive into 33D SketchUp
It's about creating this
informative and inspiring.
Truly intelligent model that supports every stage of that
embrace the future of architecture.
From design and construction to operations and maintenance.
That's amazing. And this all ties back to what we were saying before about avoiding those errors and delays. Because if everyone's working from this same accurate data set, it reduces the risk of like miscommunication and those costly mistakes later down the line.
Yeah, BIM helps create this more transparent and collaborative environment where everyone is literally on the same page.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It shifts from this fragmented workflow to a more integrated and efficient process.
Okay, I love that. But I have to admit, I still hear some hesitancy. From architects out there, they're worried about that learning curve. So is BIM really something a small firm can implement without this huge investment in training and resources?
It's a valid concern. But remember, we're talking about little BIM here.
Right.
You can start with one specific area of your workflow, maybe something like clash detection or automated documentation. You can focus on those tools and features that'll bring you immediate benefits to your projects.
So don't try to boil the ocean.
Exactly. Pick a starting point and then go from there.
Pick and choose what you need.
And there are plenty of resources out there that can help you along the way. The 33D SketchUp BIM course is a great example. But there's also, online tutorials, webinars, even local BIM user groups. Where you can connect with other professionals and learn from their experiences.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're not alone on this journey.
Absolutely. BIM is constantly evolving. So being part of a community allows you to stay up to date on those latest technologies and best practices.
Yeah, that makes sense. We've talked a lot about the technical side of things, but I think it's important to acknowledge that transitioning to BIM is also a cultural shift.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
It requires a change in mindset. A willingness to embrace these new ways of working, and a commitment to collaboration.
So it's like you're not just learning the software, you're building a BIM-savvy team to really leverage its power.
Exactly. And that could mean investing in training, fostering a culture of collaboration, and really clearly defining those roles and responsibilities within your team.
Yeah, and I can imagine that's especially important in a small firm, where everyone kind of wears multiple hats.
Right. You need to make sure everyone understands how BIM fits into their workflow and how their contributions impact the entire project.
It seems like this whole conversation is about BIM not just being a technology, but a different way of thinking and approaching design.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's about moving from that siloed linear process to a more integrated and collaborative one. It's about using that data and technology to make those better design decisions, reduce those errors, and ultimately deliver better buildings.
And that, I think, is something that every architect can get behind, no matter how big or small their firm is.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, BIM is about empowering architects to do what they do best, design beautiful, functional, and sustainable buildings.
Well said. Okay, so we've covered a lot today. From little BIM to open BIM, we even touched upon that cultural shift. That's so important for successful implementation. So for our listener out there who is ready to start their BIM journey, what's the one key takeaway that you want them to remember?
Don't be intimidated by BIM. You start small. Focus on your needs and build a team that's really excited to embrace this change. Remember, BIM isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. It's a journey of continuous learning and improvement.
And there are so many resources out there to help you along the way. From online courses to local user groups, you don't have to go it alone.
Do your research. Ask those questions. And don't be afraid to just experiment. The key is to just find what works best for your firm and your projects.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today on this deep dive into the world of BIM. Hopefully you found it insightful and maybe even a little inspiring.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we'd love to hear from you. What resonated with you? What questions do you still have?
Yeah.
Keep the conversation going in the comments. Until next time.